On a winding road, we follow Joey as she heads to her brother's rafting rental camp. Her phone rings, and it's James, her dedicated partner, discussing their future plans, including looking for homes together once her journey ends. Joey's responses, however, don't match his enthusiasm. At the campsite, Joey warmly greets her robust brother Gray. Gray introduces her to his two clients, the lively Carissa and the friendly Van, before diving into his business plans. He excitedly mentions an upcoming rafting adventure and surprises Joey with the news that their childhood friend Trevor will be joining, even though it's his day off. Joey is taken aback by this revelation, and her reaction isn't one of overwhelming joy. Soon after, Trevor joins Joey, expressing his enthusiasm for the adventure once he learned she was involved. We discover that Trevor has recently been released from a 3-year prison term, and Gray has given him a chance to turn his life around by involving him in his river business. Joey's career path as a doctor comes into the open, and her nervousness is evident as she converses with Trevor. She puts on a facade, pretending that everything is fine. Shortly after, the group bands together, getting ready for their upcoming rafting adventure, with Gray giving instructions on how to handle the paddles. Joey seems preoccupied at first, but gradually warms up to the group's positive energy. A little later, Gray informs everyone to prepare for their first encounter with rapids. After successfully navigating the rapids, the group takes a break in a picturesque spot before following Gray's lead into the woods to set up camp. Once the tents are up, Carissa playfully asks about restroom facilities, prompting Gray to suggest finding a suitable tree while giving her a can of bear mace for safety. As night falls, they gather around a crackling campfire, sharing drinks and stories. Joey's unease intensifies as the group prods her for details about her boyfriend. She reluctantly reveals that they met while working, both as doctors. The girl's comments suggest that he's a good-looking doctor, sparking jealousy in Trevor, who has shown interest in Joey right from the start. As the night wore on, Joey, feeling tired, excused herself and retreated to her tent. Later, Van declared her intention to commune with a tree and ventured into the darkness for a restroom break. Just at that moment, Trevor, under the influence of alcohol, decided to follow suit and headed into the shadows. Meanwhile, inside her tent, Joey fiddled with her phone, contemplating a message from her boyfriend. She responded with an affirmative message, but frustratingly, the poor network left her message undelivered. However, as Joey began to drift off to sleep, they were all jolted awake by Trevor's cries for help. The rest of the group hurried to the scene, where they found Van on the ground with a severe head injury. Joey promptly instructed her to lie still. Trevor kept insisting that Van had slipped and hit her head on a rock. Gray instructed Trevor to fetch his first aid kit and satellite phone, while Joey asked Gray to find some sturdy sticks to support Van's neck. It was during this tense moment that Van disclosed a disturbing truth. Trevor had attempted to assault her, leaving Joey momentarily shocked. When Trevor returned, Joey helped in staunching the bleeding, but Trevor mentioned that the satellite phones had dead batteries. Hearing this, Gray pointed out that the nearest help was at a ranger station, but reaching it would require 2 hours of rapid paddling down the river since there were no roads. Given Van's critical condition due to a skull fracture, Gray made the call for everyone to pack up, much to Trevor's discontent, as they had to navigate the river in the dark. But Gray was adamant, stating that they had no other choice. The group swiftly packed their belongings and set off on their boat. Gray didn't hold back in scolding Trevor for failing to charge the phones as instructed, leading to a heated argument between them. Meanwhile, Van sought comfort in her friend Carissa, reminiscing about how Carissa had always been there for her during times of illness and trouble. After some time on the water, Van began experiencing seizures. Joey managed to stabilize her on the raft, but time was running out. With less than an hour remaining until their destination, Gray warned them to prepare for some challenging waters. As they approached a rough section of the river, Gray directed the others to execute sharp left and right turns. Following Gray's instructions, everyone navigated the strong rapids successfully, except Trevor, who seemed confused. Consequently, they all got caught in the turbulent current, leading to the boat capsizing. They had to cling to anything to survive. Joey desperately clung to a rock, calling for the others. Meanwhile, Gray swam to an unconscious Van, grabbed another rock, and pulled himself out of the river. Carefully, he brought Van to Joey, who started CPR to revive her. Gray went to find Carissa, and encountered Trevor just before hearing Carissa's panicked cry for help. Acting quickly, Gray grabbed Trevor from behind, and Trevor urged Carissa to take his hand, despite her initial hesitation. With both guys helping Carissa, they brought her to safety. Joey subsequently had a private conversation with Gray, where she shared her suspicions about what had truly occurred between Van and Trevor. She firmly believed that Trevor had intentionally paddled slowly to capsize the boat. Gray, however, brushed aside her doubts, adamantly maintaining that Trevor couldn't have done something so malicious. Just as Trevor rejoined them, the siblings put on a facade, pretending as though nothing had transpired. Next morning, the group resumed their journey, with Trevor noticeably anxious as they drew nearer to the ranger station. On dry land, the girls wait by the river for Trevor and Gray to return with ranger station help. However, Trevor intercepts Gray, fearing the accident's consequences. He's a felon on probation, desperate to avoid tarnishing his record. He urges Gray to back his story, as his prior jail time was partly for Gray's sake. Gray assures him, promising support. Upon reaching the ranger station, Gray grows increasingly anxious. No one seems present. Soon, a vehicle arrives with the ranger. Gray explains the situation. A girl slipped, needing helicopter assistance for a head injury. The ranger goes inside to make the call, but Trevor suddenly grabs the phone, preventing him from seeking help. The ranger eyes Trevor suspiciously and tries to retrieve the phone, resulting in a physical struggle. Eventually, the ranger pulls out a gun, causing Trevor to initially back down. However, Trevor then makes a sudden lunge for the weapon, leading to a violent scuffle. The situation takes a darker turn when Trevor stabs the ranger with his knife and claims that the ranger was attempting to harm him. Gray attempts to apply pressure to the ranger's wound in an effort to save him, but Trevor insists it's a futile effort. Gray then argues that if the ranger survives, they can secure a helicopter to rescue Van, preventing Trevor from becoming a murderer. As Gray desperately tries to revive the ranger, Trevor destroys the phone and compels Gray to reaffirm their partnership. With considerable effort, they transport the ranger to his car and push it off a cliff. The vehicle explodes shortly thereafter, providing them with a cover for their actions. Trevor and Gray eventually rejoin the women, who eagerly inquire about the expected helicopter. Carissa, alarmed by the sight of a gun in Trevor's hands, takes a step back. Gray informs them that their plans have changed, and they intend to head towards the Canadian patrol. Joey presses for information about the ranger, and Trevor bluntly states that he is deceased. Joey expresses concern that returning to the water will endanger Van's life, but Trevor remains firm in his decision. They continue paddling, and tragically, Van succumbs to her injuries in the middle of the river. After some time, Gray implores Trevor to allow them to take a break since both women are exhausted and incapable of paddling any further. In a crucial moment, a passing hiker notices the group and offers to seek help, inquiring if they need a helicopter. Trevor, however, reassures the hiker, highlighting Joey's medical knowledge and downplaying Van's condition as a minor fall. The hiker engages in casual conversation and offers assistance, but Trevor declines, and the hiker eventually departs. Just as the hiker departs, Trevor proposes to Gray that they should eliminate the hiker to prevent him from seeking help or alerting authorities, but Gray successfully talks Trevor out of this notion. Gray suggests that they take a break after their time spent paddling through the river and stresses the significance of giving Van a proper burial. After reaching dry land once more, they proceed to lay Van to rest, and Carissa is in tears throughout this process, as it was originally her idea to go rafting. As they continue their journey into the woods to set up their campsite, Trevor decides to confide in Joey and Carissa, unveiling the truth that Gray isn't the saintly figure he pretends to be. Trevor reveals a dark secret from their past. Gray had been running a lucrative drug operation, but he was apprehended for minor offenses. In a selfless act, Trevor shouldered the blame and served time in jail to protect Gray. The money Gray was making from his illicit activities was substantial, and Gray had become like a brother to Trevor. Trevor had no family apart from Gray and Joey. Later that evening, Trevor restrains Carissa, Gray, and Joey, displaying an unexpected show of concern by asking Joey if the restraints are causing discomfort. Joey remains silent as Trevor covers her with a blanket before drifting off to sleep. When Joey confronts Gray about his past actions, Gray admits that he wasn't in the right state of mind. He acknowledges his history of excessive drinking and poor choices, expressing genuine remorse. He also disapproves of Trevor's current actions. Joey then reveals how he let Trevor do the unthinkable to her when she was just 15, surprising Gray, who had assumed they were a couple. Gray assures Joey that he will stand by her and make amends this time. Joey's story clearly affects her interactions with her boyfriend, whom she reluctantly conversed with over the phone. Shortly, the hiker who had harbored suspicions about Trevor re-emerges. He attempts to wrest the gun from Trevor's grip as Trevor sleeps deeply, but Trevor's hold remains strong. Instead, the hiker decides to free the hostages. He proceeds to untie Joey and explains that he had sensed something was amiss, prompting him to trail them. Suddenly, Trevor awakens and fires at the hiker and erupts into violent screams, convinced that Joey was orchestrating a scheme. As he threatens to shoot her, Gray intervenes, emphasizing Joey's importance for rowing the boat. The following morning, Trevor commands them to bury the hiker, and Carissa discreetly conceals the hiker's knife she discovered in his pocket. They then return to the boat and resume paddling, following Trevor's directives. Joey and Carissa remain securely bound by strong ropes, and Gray earnestly pleads with Trevor to release them, emphasizing the necessity of having at least 4 people to safely navigate a waterfall. Trevor, however, exhibits unwavering confidence in Gray's abilities as a river guide, and adamantly refuses to free them. Unbeknownst to Trevor, Carissa manages to stealthily pocket the hiker's knife, which she later employs to puncture the boat's hull. Sometime later, Trevor becomes aware that the boat is taking on water and accuses Carissa of sabotaging it. She vehemently denies any involvement in the boat's deterioration. Forced to halt their progress, Trevor calls upon Gray to assist him in patching up the boat. However, to everyone's astonishment, Gray launches an unexpected attack on Trevor, attempting to wrest the gun from his grasp. The two engage in a fierce struggle for control of the weapon, while Carissa endeavors to free Joey from her restraints. Joey returns the favor, guiding Carissa to run without looking back. As the girls plunge into the woods, Gray valiantly buys them some time by engaging in a fight with Trevor, but he is ultimately shot moments later. Terrified and pursued by Trevor, Joey makes a split-second decision to sprint in the opposite direction, hoping to divert his attention away from Carissa. Trevor, initially determined to chase Joey, ultimately hesitates and decides to follow her. However, Joey takes a daring leap off a cliff, knowing Trevor has a fear of heights that would prevent him from pursuing her further. As Trevor's shot misses her, Joey swims to her brother, encouraging him to fight for his life. She assists Gray in returning to the boat so they can make their escape, while Trevor rushes back to catch up with Gray. Fortunately, Trevor arrives a bit too late, and the siblings manage to elude him. Trevor encounters two kayakers, demanding that they hand over their kayak to him, before setting off in pursuit of the siblings. Meanwhile, Joey braces herself as Gray warns her about an approaching waterfall on their route. Shortly thereafter, Trevor catches up to them, and they find themselves perilously close to the edge of the largest waterfall, a section of the river that Joey wasn't at all prepared to navigate. Tragically, as they near the waterfall's edge, Gray falls from the boat, and Joey struggles to pull him back on board. Sadly, the river's powerful currents take hold of them, causing the boat to capsize once again. Joey manages to swim to safety, but her injured brother is swept away, dangerously close to the brink of the massive waterfall. Miraculously, he clings to a nearby rock, preventing himself from going over the edge, and Joey rushes to her brother's side to help him out of the water. Joey desperately fights to keep her brother conscious, but their dire situation takes an even darker turn when Trevor catches up to them and brutally stabs her from behind. He sadistically taunts her and delivers a heartless comment about her newfound resolve to fight back. Left with no other recourse, Gray makes an agonizing decision to sacrifice himself. He seizes Trevor from behind and leaps off the cliff, leading to both their tragic deaths. In excruciating pain and weakened by her stab wound, Joey lies on a rock, her strength waning to the point where she can't move. But then, a glimmer of hope emerges as she hears the distinctive sound of a helicopter. It becomes apparent that Carissa, who was rescued in the woods and alerted the authorities about Joey and Gray, played a crucial role in their potential rescue. The helicopter hovers in the sky as the search team scours the area for Joey and her brother. Summoning every ounce of remaining energy, Joey manages to get to her feet and waves frantically as the helicopter circles overhead. Luckily, Carissa spots her and signals the rescue team to descend. The movie concludes with Joey shedding tears of relief as she lies on a bed, receiving vital medical attention inside the helicopter, finally safe from the harrowing ordeal.